Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. Today is our monthly series called Closing Time with Chris Linsell from The Close. Now, this is a partnership between Keeping It Real and theclose.com. And let me tell you more about The Close. Theclose.com is the kind of real estate website designed to give agents, teams, and brokerages actionable strategic insight from industry professionals. So they cover real estate marketing, lead generation, technology, and team building strategies from the perspective of working agents and brokers who want to take their business to the next level. Please visit theclose.com. That's THECLOSE.com to check out their articles. You can also subscribe to their newsletter and they'll send you an email every time a new article goes live. With us, as always, is Chris Linsell. He is the staff writer. He is a staff writer and real estate coach for The Close. Chris is The Close's resident expert on real estate topics ranging from marketing, lead gen, transactional best practices, and everything in between. He's a licensed agent in the state of Michigan. Chris has been part of hundreds of transactions from modest rural starter homes to massive waterside compounds. When he isn't writing or servicing his clients, you'll find Chris fly fishing or performing on the stage of his community theater's production. In fact, Chris just got back from a week of trout fishing. So very glad to have him back. Chris, welcome once again to Keeping It Real. We're excited to have you.
DJ, thanks for having me. Yep, I just spent a week in the blue ribbon trout streams of Michigan, disconnected from all of you lovely people. So everyone who sent me emails, I'm working on it. I'm getting back to you. Everyone who sent me, derisive comments on Twitter, I'm probably not getting back to you, but I'm going to read them all. So, keep it coming.
Yeah, it's I am very excited to see what happens with Elon Musk's Twitter bid, whether that goes through. I think that could really revitalize the platform that so many people just are not engaging with anymore. And I'm hoping that it's such a great place to have conversations and some not so great conversations too. But if they can clean up some of the toxicity of it and just somehow figure out how to have more constructive conversations. I think Twitter may be due for a renaissance. We'll see.
I think you're right. And, by the time this hits the podcast, podcast services, we may know something else. My 2 cents is there's no way this is going to close, but I hope it does, frankly.
Yeah.
I think it'll be pretty interesting. But that's an interesting convo relative to what we want to talk about today, which is social media, right?
Yes.
So I'm actually working on some content right now, might be out pretty close to when this podcast gets released. So if you're watching or listening on Facebook, you got a little while to wait. If you're checking it out on a podcast app, this might be out now. But I'm working on some content for theclose.com about social media content strategies. Basically, some ways that you can take social media content and make it more about your business and your goals instead of just, random collections of likes and comments. Because one of the problems with social media content often is that we are measuring success with the wrong metrics. Like we think about a successful social media post as something that gets all these likes and everyone is just in love with what you wrote or the picture or the video you made. And you get all these shares and all this social media accolade. And then most of us realize at the end of the day, we say, wow, that was just so fun. And I got no clients out of it and I got no leads out of it. And I really have not advanced my business in any kind of measurable way. So what can we do to create content that actually does what we want it to do?
I absolutely agree. And let's maybe define quickly just what we're talking about with sort of very common, and not that these are in any way mistakes, but a common strategy for agents to use on social media, which is I'm going to post because I just got a new listing and I want to show off some of photos of the home. I want to post because now it's under contract or it just closed, or I want to post because I'm heading to the gym this morning and I want my sphere of influence to see that not only am I a hard worker, I'm also staying in shape. I see a lot of those posts. It's a lot of like, here's what I'm doing in my personal life, or here's the dinner I just made, or here's all the cool stuff I'm doing in my real estate business. That's what I see more than anything for realtors.
Yeah. And frankly, there's nothing wrong with that content. There's nothing wrong with the things that you said you want to do here. The only thing that when I hear those things that my ears perk up and I say, now wait a minute, let's talk about this, is I didn't hear anything in those what I want out of social media that actually I would say are direct contributors to getting you to the closing table, that
Right.
you can actually track towards building a better GCI and a more dependable funnel of leads. And part of the reason that we face that challenge in social media content, as far as I have observed, and in my own practice and in my practice of advising other agents, is that most of us don't have, and this is one of the first strategies I want to highlight here, is most of us don't have a plan for what we want the people who are consuming our social media content to actually do after they read or watch or have experience a post by us. Most of us just think, well, what I want them to do is like this or comment on it or share it. And those are okay things to want, but what else do you want? We should be thinking about social media content as not the end, but just as a step in our lead funnel. So for instance, if I'm posting about a new listing, my goal here should be creating content that is going to generate somebody's desire to click on the post, to visit like my website, the property webpage. I mean, shoot, even Zillow, if that's what it takes. But we need to have some sort of plan for what we want these people to do after they consume our content. So this is my first strategy for folks. If you want to create better social media content, you need to think about your content and then. What's the and then with your content? If you don't have a clear and then, frankly, you're creating a post without a purpose right now.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is some sort of action step, whether it's a direct action that you're asking someone to do. If you're making a video, perhaps say, oh, by the way, I can help you in the same way for your situation. Here's how to reach me. Here's how to, reach out. That would be a call to action, right? Whether it's a good call to action or not is debatable, but at least having something that they can do, or like you said, visit my website, or perhaps even look at Zillow. Having some sort of action step, either at the beginning of the content or the end of the content, I think can be very effective.
Totally agree. And I want to really encourage agents to not just have the step in mind, whatever that next step is, but to use that next step as your yardstick for measuring success. Yeah. So for instance, if your post, if you create some social media content and the desired next step is somebody to go to your website and fill out a form requesting information. Let's say, for instance, you have got a video on Facebook all about how homes in a certain neighborhood of your target market have never been worth more. And so if you have a home in this area, reach out to me. Let's get a home valuation done for you so you can at least understand what your options are. Your measure for success on this social media post needs to be how many people actually did this. That's maybe not the only measure for success, because social media content is multidimensional and has multiple purposes. But if you're not actually measuring your success based on what you want to happen, it's kind of like a runner measuring the success of their training with metrics other than, well, how fast did they run the race? If you don't think about how fast you run the race, what you actually want to accomplish out of your training, then you are using the wrong metrics to measure your success. So make sure that you're including that next step as a metric for success. And if you're not finding success, then you need to figure out how to adjust your content strategy so that you're meeting those goals.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a point to the measurement, because I think so many agents put together a piece of content on social media, video, static image, post, something informational they're super passionate about. They take the time to make it. Maybe they even edit it. They put it out there, and maybe there is also an action step possibly at the end, and then they don't get the results they want. And I think it's important to remember, from a branding perspective, you're going to need to drip that action step likely on that same audience, maybe a couple of dozen times before they actually take action. So measuring just one video, one post, yes, over time, you'll want to see which videos perform better, which get you more clicks and action steps completed. But it's going to take a while to build up that brand. Or do you disagree? I'm certainly happy to hear another opinion.
I think you're right on that. And you're right. We have to consider that social media is cumulative. Instead of it is not these like sniper shots, one shot, and then you're like jumping the entire funnel. Like social media is a cumulative strategy, especially when you're dealing with organic, non-paid posting. Like you're just showing up in people's feeds multiple times until they start to get the sense that this person knows what they're talking about. I see them more often than not, but honestly, there are strategies within the social realm where your content is something that you should expect direct results from the first time, like paid advertisement, which is very important on social media platforms. We'll talk about that in a second. You are paying for ads on these places, and you should expect an ROI. If your goal is to get form fills from an ad and you get no form fills, this social media content was not successful. So keep in mind that organic strategy, where you're creating this like consistent posting schedule of value that you're delivering to your followers on a regular basis, that's one thing. But if you're paying to play, you should expect a return on your investment. And if you're not getting a return on your investment, you're not doing it right.
And I'll also, just a real quick pro tip, if anyone out there is spending money on Facebook, Google, Instagram, certainly, any of the social platforms, or even Google as a search engine themselves, if you're paying for ads and you're not seeing the results you want, almost all of those services have free advisors that you can contact who will literally look at your account, because it is complicated. It will be very complicated to set up these ads and understand the metrics and best practices. And they will literally, I have done it. They will walk you through. And I don't know if everyone will get that kind of access, but you probably will, because they want you spending money on their platform. Definitely. And they know that if you're not successful, you'll stop.
100%. And I don't mean to throw shade on real estate technology companies, but there is kind of this frustrating trend that I see, especially in the customer service versus sales departments of a lot of real estate technology companies, that they are very attentive before you have signed on the dotted line, and then are a little less attentive after you've signed on the dotted line. The same is true when it comes to ad spend companies, except you could always spend more with advertising platforms. So if you've got questions about spending money, 99% of the time, these folks are more than happy to answer because they want you to keep doing that. I wanted to hit on another platform, since we're kind of talking a little bit about these platforms, another strategy. I mean, and this is kind of a call to the carpet for agents, especially for those who have maybe one particular kind of content they're most comfortable with, and they're not really interested in branching out. The fact is, guys, not every social media platform is right for you. And I'm saying that generally. And for those of you who are listening, I want you to think about me saying this specifically to you, individual listener. Not every platform is right for you. And it's not because you couldn't be on there. You can start an account anywhere you want. But frankly, you might not be very good at the content necessary to be successful on that platform. And acknowledging that is really important. So I use a pretty simple test when it comes to social media platforms. You want to, if you can answer yes to the following 3 questions, you are in the right place. The first question is my audience here? Are my clients here? Are my prospects? Are my leads here? Is my audience on this platform? So as an example, if you live in Dubuque, Iowa, and you service a lot of retirees or maybe farm buyers and sellers, Twitter is probably not a social media platform where you're going to have a lot of success because most of your audience is not there. Twitter users tend to skew very heavily on the East and West Coast, a little bit in the Midwest, but it's mainly in cities like Chicago and Indianapolis and Cincinnati. But it's a lot of coasties. It's a lot of younger, more affluent buyers and sellers. It is very rarely the suburban or rural buyers and sellers. So Twitter does not pass the audience test for you. That's question number 1. Is my audience here? Question number 2 is, can I create the content that does well here? If you can't do video comfortably, TikTok is not a platform for you. There is no other option on TikTok other than video. And there are some people who are trying to like shoehorn bad non-video content like
Still
slideshows.
images that rotate or things like that. Yeah.
That sort of stuff does not do well on TikTok. And in fact, it is people laugh about it. You have a negative brand impact for putting the content that isn't designed to be on a platform consistently on those spaces. So question number 1, is my audience there? Question number 2, can I create the content that does well on these platforms? So TikTok, this would be video content. Instagram, this is a lot of photos and video. Twitter, this is a lot of text, some images, but a lot of text, a lot of links, a lot of what's happening right now, current events like in the market today, sort of thing. Facebook it really runs the gamut, but has a lot of community-oriented content. Pinterest has a lot of home decor, home improvement, home renovation, curb appeal, a very visual search engine. YouTube is obviously a video, a little bit longer form video. You need to find a platform where you can create content that's going to be successful there.
I was going to suggest, I'm sorry,
ahead.
one quick way. If you're not sure where your audience, your previous clients, your existing clients, or the people you want to work with, if you're not sure where they spend their time, ask them. Send out a survey to everybody you know and say, hey, I'm looking to focus in one social media platform in the next year, and I just want to get curious on. You can even make it anonymous, but say, I'm curious on which platforms. We did this in a nonprofit that I help with, and we found out that that the vast majority of our constituents were on LinkedIn. We had no idea, and we went, okay, well, now we're going to publish more professional content on LinkedIn because that's where our audience hangs out. But we just assumed it was Facebook, and it turns out it wasn't.
That's a really great point. Your client base, the people who already know, like, and trust you, they will respond to these sorts of questions. So ask them. That's a great strategy to use. So those 3 questions. It was, where's my audience? Can I create content that does well on the platform my audience is where they're living? And then the third question is, can I do it consistently enough to meet the platform's standards? So for instance, if you want to be active on TikTok, especially in the beginning, this is not a joke. You need to be posting 5, 6, 10 times a day. Okay. If you want to be active on Facebook, this is a 1 post a day sort of thing. In fact, more than 1 post a day on Facebook will downgrade you. People don't want to see that much from you. If you want to be active on Instagram, it's more like 2 posts, 3 posts, kind of depends on what you're doing a little bit there. But you need to be able to commit to a consistent cadence that's going to give you the success that you want to have. Because if you are active in places where your audience is not, you're not going to get any leads. If you're active in places where your audience is, but you're not creating the content they want to see, you're not going to get any leads. And if you're active in places your audience is, and you're making the sort of content they want to see, but you're not making it enough, you're not going to get any leads. So use those 3 rules to answer the question of, should I be active here?
Yeah.
Or should I leave this one and focus somewhere else?
The last question I'd like to ask you is around content. So that is that. So once we determine our platform, maybe look at the frequency of posts, the type of posts we're going to make, whether they're videos, still images, etc. Now we got to figure out, okay, we know where to go and essentially what to do. We're not exactly sure what content or is needed. Curious to get your thoughts on determining content ideas.
Yeah. So everyone is going to be a little bit different here. So I want to give a couple of kind of more general 30,000 foot view pieces of advice. And hopefully this points people in the right direction. There's a couple of content rules that you should consider. The first is you should always create social media content with your audience in mind, not with you in mind. You're not making what you want to see. You're making what they want to see. You have to remember, this isn't your personal video blog where you are like a video diary where you're writing down all of your thoughts or putting all your thoughts down on video so your children can review it for posterity. You're doing this to make money. So create the content that is going to elicit a response from your audience, not just from the things that will elicit a response for you. So that's the first kind of big rule. The second rule is think about your content as an emotional trigger, whether it is a happy trigger or an angry trigger or a motivated trigger or a sad trigger. Social media platforms are designed to prompt a response, and they want their users to then share that content so that it prompts a response in their users' circles. And so if you think about content that prompts a response, frankly, just a copied URL from your local MLS with a new listing, there's no response that happens here. This is boring. You need to create content that prompts a response. Think about what the emotion is that you want to prompt and create content around that. No more boring content. I see so much boring content on social media, and guess what? It has 0 likes, 0 shares, 0 comments, because most people don't even see it. They're blind to it now. And then the last piece of content advice that I would give folks is, frankly, we got to stop trying to go viral. Going viral is not a goal. It's not a goal for you. It's almost not a goal for anyone. There are very few people in the social media space who should have a goal of going viral. And the reason here is going viral, first of all, is extremely difficult, and it happens based on factors that are almost always out of your control. And 2, consistency is a much better way to drive action on social media. Social media platforms reward consistent posting of quality content. So instead of trying to make that one crazy post that's going to get shared 1,000 times, you should be shooting to make 100 posts that get shared 10 times, because that sort of consistency is going to help 99.9% of agents level up their social media game. If you're an agent like Tyler Whitman or Ryan Serhant in New York City and you have millions of followers, going viral is a little bit easier because you've got such a bigger base to build from. But if you have a couple of thousand followers, frankly, 75% of them are probably not very engaged in what you've got going on. Going viral is very difficult, so you should work on consistent content that is going to regularly elicit an emotional response and is content that is in line with the platform you're participating in. So without going too deep into specific content suggestions, because everyone's market is a little bit different, if you follow those rules, your social media content will be more successful.
Yeah, and just as a quick addition to that, for content, one content idea is and there's obviously a million different content ideas, but think about the questions you get asked by your clients throughout a transaction or prior to a transaction even starting. Those are all content ideas. Might not be the right content ideas for engagement with social media, but that is a great place to start if you're sort of thinking, gosh, I don't even know what to talk about. Well, what was the last question one of your clients asked you? And then turn that into a video if you want to. But we can talk about content ideas on another episode too, but that was really helpful. In other words, just to recap, what we were talking about is choosing the appropriate platform that your clients are engaged with and that also works for your type of content. So those are two different things. So we want to make sure we're hanging out where our agents are, where our clients are, and then giving content that is sort of best suited for that particular platform. And then also trying to come up with a consistent model, a consistency model. That's how we built this podcast. It's how you guys have built the close. It's all around small victories, singles and doubles as opposed to home runs. Singles and doubles will win the game. Home runs are great, but we focus on singles and doubles and we'll win. So consistency. We are at the end of this episode. So we will say goodbye to our friend and co-host, Chris Linsell from theclose.com. Please, everybody, go visit theclose.com. It's just the best resource that we have found online for teaching agents how to grow their practice through best marketing practices, tech reviews. If you're like thinking of adding a new system in and you want to see what the experts say as far as different CRMs, et cetera, lead sources, The Close is the place. They go deep and they go wide. And they have great, true journalists working there. So please check out theclose.com. And Chris, on behalf of everyone, as always, we say thank you for your contributions to the show. And Chris is now speaks all over the country. So we'll have to have your calendar maybe put on our site so everyone can follow you, see if you're coming to their town to talk. Because when Chris speaks, people listen, and he just has great insight into what's going on currently and what's on the horizon for us realtors and the real estate industry in general. So anyway, on behalf of Chris and myself, we also want to say thank you. And please tell a friend about the show, tell a friend about this episode, go visit theclose.com, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.